Is jumping your dog's superpower? Wondering how your puppy has all that energy to be constantly bouncing around? Are you hoping that they're going to grow out of that overexcited greeting? You're not alone. Jumping is one of the behaviors that humans find very frustrating, especially if it's a big dog. In today's video, I'm gonna talk about puppy jumping. Not only why you want to limit it for safety, but also how to teach your puppy to have good manners when you have visitors. Michelle here with How to Train a Dream Dog. Now before I get to the details, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another video lesson like this one. Now there's a lot of reasons why puppies jump. Most of the time it's due to excitement, usually because of the human activity happening that they want to be involved in. Jumping is a natural way that dogs express enthusiasm. Just look at it when two dogs play together. Healthy play often involves dogs up on their back two legs while they paw at each other. Now, if dogs do it during play with other dogs, you know it's a natural behavior. And that doesn't mean that you have to tolerate it on your nice work clothes, but it does mean that you have to adjust your mindset to provide your dog with the proper outlets for jumping, and also teach him when it's not a time for jumping. Now, there are several scenarios where you might see jumping the most, such as jumping at the door when guests or family members come in. And a dog might jump when seeing something exciting or even scary on that neighborhood walk. Or he might be jumping to get something of value, like on the counter surfing. Now, we can't address all these jumping scenarios in exactly the same way, but I'm going to give you the framework for how to think about jumping for you to apply to your own situation. I'm going to use the example of the door greetings because I get that question a lot in my Facebook group, Puppy Training with Michele Lennon. Speaking of that group, are you a member yet? It's an amazing group where you can search for answers or ask questions. And each question is actually answered by a professional from my team. The link is below in the description. Now, before I talk about jumping on guests, I want to address the safety aspect of jumping. Now, you may not know, but repetitive jumping is actually not good for young dogs and puppies. If their growth plates haven't fully formed and they're doing a lot of the same movement, like running or going up and down stairs excessively or jumping, it can actually cause hairline fractures in those growth plates. Now, jumping off furniture can also cause this issue, especially in small dogs. Now, these fractures may not show up right away, but they become a real issue for your dog a few years down the road. So for now, if your puppy is still young, don't do activities with him or her that are the same motions over and over again. Now, some people love to play with a fleur pole with their dog. My dogs love it too, but I don't use it for jumping, only chasing. So keep that in mind when thinking about the fun ways you can exercise your dog. Now, you can learn more about growth plates as well as some exercise options in this video here. Now, when your dog is jumping, when you don't want him to, the first thing to identify is what's triggering the jumping. Is it someone walking through the door? Is it the doorbell? Is it the closing of a car door or the raising of the garage door? There is usually some sort of trigger that changes the dog's energy level to get them ready for the jump. Now, understanding what the trigger is will be the first step to addressing the jumping. That trigger is going to turn into the dog's cue to do something else. Now, the next step is going to be to figure out what you want the dog to do in that situation. But let me tell you a pro tip here. Not jumping is not the acceptable answer. Now, a much better way to address it is to give him something else to do. Some options may include going to his crate and waiting for a cue to come out, going to a place or a bed of your choosing, or sitting or standing by your side, or some other action that you think would be better than jumping. I actually have an online student who's working through this issue right now. Now, she reached out to me and our other certified trainers on the team. We helped her think through what she might want her dog to do instead. So in this case, her dog is really social and desperately wanted to play and say hi and meet new people who arrived at the house. So instead of asking the dog to leave the room and just stay on a bed, which actually would be very hard for this particular guy, we worked with her to develop a game of go say hi. Now, she and the dog actually have this routine, and the guests enter the house and the dog sits nicely at the owner's side, waiting for that cue. And then when the guests are ready, the owner gives the cue, go say hi, and the dog can go over to the new people and bumps their hand with his nose. This is a much better option than jumping on them, don't you think? Then the dog actually returns to the owner for the reward. This actually allows the dog to be part of the social greeting, but in a way that works for the humans. If you would like to teach your dog something similar, consider enrolling in my online course. Enrolling at the pro level is going to allow us to come up with that similar approach that fits your unique situation. Now, once we've worked through in your mind what exactly you want your dog to do in that situation, it's actually time to get everyone on the same page, including your guests. This actually means making sure that you are 100% consistent with your approach. Now, if you're unclear in your instructions or the implementation of the training, your pup will have a harder time learning what you're trying to teach. In my online course, I actually have a video for your guests. In it, I go over some of the things that they can do to help the dog learn that jumping is not the behavior we want. Sure, the dog owners could tell their friends the same thing, but sometimes it's easier if it comes from a third-party professional. That's me. Okay, now that we've figured out what we want the dog to do instead of jumping, now it's time to actually take it to practice. So when practicing new training concepts, you always want to start with the training dial turned way down. That means an environment that is not distracting to the dog. You want all his focus to be on you, and the more things happen in the background, the harder that will be. So as the dog gets really good at the skill, then you can slowly add in more distractions like noises, people moving, or even another animal. And finally, something that resembles the exact situation where the jumping usually happens. Now, at this point in the training, I like to say that it's time for the show. In the example of my students teaching her puppy not to jump on the guests, that means the real guests really arrive. Consider this like the Olympics, which is where the athletes end up after all that practice. Now, the amount of practice you've put in with your dog almost guarantees an amazing performance. Now, if you aren't sure it'll go well, it means you need to do more practice. Now, the last thing to keep in mind is that once you've decided how to address this jumping, you're going to want to make sure that the dog can't practice the behavior you don't want. Now, if you let your dog jump on guests while you're training him not to, all the work will be undone. So this means it's time to manage that environment. Now, whether it's having him in a different room when guests arrive, or greeting guests out in the driveway, maybe on a leash, or some other management of the space, just be sure he doesn't get to jump. Now, remember to manage the environment, not the dog. Never hold your dog down or step on the leash to prevent the jumping. This is actually going to cause additional frustration, and it could really be unsafe. All right, I hope you learned a lot from this video. Now, as you can see, it's not as easy as just teaching the dog a no jumping cue. You're gonna want your dog to jump when he's old enough and as part of his play. I mean, it's natural behavior, but you can teach him that there's a time and a place for jumping. Remember that critical role of the human is to decide what you want him to do instead and teach it to him as well, using lots of reinforcement for rewards. Now, if this is something that you want to do with your dog, consider enrolling in my online course. Not only are you going to get amazing training lessons on sit and stay and down and come and leash skills, but at the pro level, we can actually customize your training to add in those fun games like go say hi, and other behaviors to combat that jumping. We also cover other jumping scenarios like jumping on kids, counter surfing, jumping when seeing exciting things out on walks too. The link to learn more about the course is in the description below the video. In the comments, tell me, do you have a jumpy dog?